Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming to our webinar. I would like to just very briefly introduce myself. I'm Alicia Smith, and I am currently president of the Great Lakes Jet Alumni Association, which is a jet program alumni association covering both Michigan and Ohio. If you've never heard of JET, it's a really great postgraduate opportunity to live and work in Japan. Most people who go on the JET program end up working in the Japanese schools, and a small portion who speak Japanese very well are chosen to be coordinators for international relations. They can work in a city hall or at a board of education. So you do need a bachelor's degree to apply for JET, but if you plan on getting a bachelor's degree or you already have a bachelor's degree, I highly recommend this program because living and working in Japan is very different from going there as a tourist or even as a study abroad. It gives you a whole new window on the culture. So if you are interested in the JET program, you can apply in your senior year of bachelor's degree or after in the fall. It opens every fall. All right, so next I'm going to pass it to Stephanie, who is our co-hosting organization. Stephanie?
Thank you so much, Alicia. I am Stephanie from the Japan America Society of Michigan and Southwest Ontario Young Professionals. We are an offset of the General Japan America Society that focuses on developing young professionals' growth in networking, professional development, and ultra Japanese culture. So it's a really fantastic group. We have been so lucky to put on the Japanese Job Fair this year alongside Great Lakes JETA. The Japanese job fair, it, again, is really going to be a big thing that we kind of talk about a little bit today, but it is a great way to stand out to companies, especially Japanese companies, if you're looking to work in that environment. It is also just generally a celebration of Japanese business in Michigan and in the area, where we have both companies, job seekers, and community leaders all in one space to connect with each other, to talk to each other. And it's just overall a great way to make really strong connections that you can use once you get out to the business world, or maybe even a few days down the line if you make a fantastic connection and are able to secure a job, which has happened through our job fair. So any questions about job fair, we are happy to answer. We'll have more links in the chat about what you can do to register, where you can sign up, and where you can ask those questions. So again, thank you so much for coming out today.
All right, well, I will jump in now. We're going to start our main presentation, but I wanted to give a little bit of an overview of how this started. So my name is Kasia. I am the founder of Ikigai Connections and the job board for Japanese jobs in the US called Nihongo Jobs. And I collaborate often with Quick USA, our other speakers here, as well as the JASMO YPs and Great Lakes JETA. And we've gone to a lot of job fairs in the past, and I often see people who come very well intentioned, but may not know some of the things that they can do to prepare themselves for an actual job fair. I mean, it can be really daunting. You don't know, what you're going to expect. So today we're hoping, of course, all the information we give is going to be applicable to any kind of job seeking, but we're going to focus specifically on a job fair. If you have to go in person and you have to show off your skills and try to impress employers so that they can, interview you or give you an opportunity. So I will start my slides very soon, but I want to say that this presentation is for, I'd like to say everybody, and I think a lot of the things we're going to say are going to be valuable advice no matter where you are in your career, but it is specifically for people who want to impress for their first main job fair. And we know that there's a job fair happening in Michigan that Stephanie just introduced. There's another one in Georgia coming up in February as well too. There's all the career forums. You've heard of the Boston Career Forum. The one in LA is happening in June, I believe. So there's lots of opportunities happening, and I'm sure in your local area there's some as well too. So the information is for anybody new to a job fair. It's for anybody who's interested in using their Japanese language or cultural skills in a career, whether they're entry level, mid-career, or senior level. And just anybody who is thinking to change their careers, maybe go back into something that's related to Japan if they did JET or another program a long time ago. So we hope you enjoy this, and I'm going to start my slides and also give you an opportunity to listen to some quick introductions from Quick USA. We're also going to be talking a lot about elevator pitches today, so this is going to be an opportunity for you to hear two people introduce themselves. So Takeshi-san, may I ask you to go next?
All right. Thank you so much for Kasia-san for introducing. Hi, everybody. This is Takeshi of Quick USA, and we are a Japanese recruiting company supporting for all Japanese company in US to hire the local candidate. And what I do is I do community reach. I go for all the universities and for the communities who are running Japanese or who is willing to be connected to Japan in the future. And then today, the reason why I'm here for the speaker is when we are supporting for a lot of students or a lot of entry level or never been to the job fair, never been to apply for the job, there is always a first time. And then I always think, oh, I wish I could help them before, they did the first time, something like that. So I'm very happy today that we can talk what you expect, what the job fair, and then I hope you have a great success in the event in February.
All right, thank you. And now, Carlos, your introduction, please.
Of course. First of all, thank you so much, Kasia, Alicia, and everybody who organized this event for inviting us and letting us take part in this event. Hi, everyone. My name is Carlos Medina. I am an assistant recruiter with Quick USA. I work together with Takeshi-san here. As he mentioned, we are a Japanese recruiting company. Like you said, we mainly focus on Japanese companies in the United States, and we try to reach out, support anybody both in the United States and outside of the United States who is interested in working for Japanese companies locally here in the US, right? We provide every sort of support that we can, such as, introduction to positions and follow-ups and interviews and all that good stuff. I am a former JET. I was in Japan for about 3 years, 2019 to 2022. So I know, not as a CIR, but as an assistant language teacher. So I know what the program is about. So I do also interact with a lot of JET alumni who are looking to make the transition into corporate from the educational field. And, what I do is I try to provide them as much support as possible. Again, thank you for joining today's webinar on the job fairs, and we hope that some of the information that we provide you will be helpful for your upcoming job fairs. Thank you so much.
Great. So now please allow me to share my slides, and hopefully everybody sees them. Thumbs up. All right. So today, quick agenda. We're going to talk about what a job fair is, how to prepare. We're going to dig into the Japanese language and cultural component. We're going to talk about employer expectations, and then give you some day of tips. And towards the end, we're going to have some breakout rooms. We're each going to give you the opportunity, if you're interested, to practice your elevator speech, your elevator pitch. So this is something that you can use when you actually, whether you're interviewing, whether you're just networking, but especially at a job fair, when you go up to a table where an employer is sitting and you're just nervous and don't know what to do, this will be a safe space for you to practice. It will not be recorded. There'll be smaller groups than what you see here, and you'll have some time to practice. So I'll give a little bit more explanation when we get there. After the breakout rooms, we'll come back to the main room, and I have some questions from the audience that when you registered, you sent in some questions. But of course, if you have any other questions, you can drop them in the chat or just save them for the Q&A time, and we can either hear your question over the mic, or you can just type it in the chat and we can answer any specific questions you may have. So without further ado, here we go with the very first page. So Takeshi-san, onegai shimasu.
All right, for those who never been to the job fair, I want to explain to you a little bit in an idea how it's going to be in the spot. So in the area, there is the booths of the companies, Japanese companies have the booths in there. And basically, job seekers make in line and then talk to the company. So that's the basic things. So, and then in there, what they're gonna happen is you might have only like a minute to talk with them because there's so many people and it's come to your time. And then once it's your time, this is the things I wanted to give you advice is please be prepared for something to introduce yourself. There's some similar question which always happen. First one, most happen. Tell me about yourself. So this is the first thing. Please be prepared to answer who you are within like 1 minute or 2 minutes maximum. And what you are studying. What is your ideal job? What are you looking for? This is like first things what they're gonna ask you in the questions. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing right. But when the interviewer is talking with so many candidates in there, it's very noticeable that you are prepared or you are unprepared. It's very easy to see. So when they, not the content, but when they feel, oh, this candidate is not prepared, means they really wanted to do it, or is this person is always like this, like go there somewhere unprepared, something like that. So like those events to be prepared. There's nothing wrong, there's nothing correct. Be prepared, and this is why we are doing these sessions. And then also, I wanted to say, like, this is not the places to negotiate for your salary, or this is not the places to negotiate your conditions, something like that. This is the places to meet you and the company. So it's introducing interview. You know, if they are interested in, then it's going to be a next step to talk about more details. So it's a first step, just to introduce yourself, and then also, this is a good chance for you to understand what is the company. Because when I was freshman, you know, when I graduated, when I found a job, I had no idea what kind of the company are they. So it was very difficult. When you see the job description, the company name, it's very difficult to understand what are they doing, what they're requesting. So this is a great opportunity that, of course, you introduce yourself. But and also, this is a great opportunity for you to understand what they are doing in there. And it is okay to ask what are they exactly doing, what is the company structure, and what kind of the candidate are you looking for. Those questions is okay to ask in that way, which going to give you more idea that if you go for the first step for the interview, you can be prepared to be sure that what they are looking for. So this is kind of the idea about what is the job fair, why you are there. And then one quick thing about my personal experience, I want to share the information is, I look like I'm very extrovert, something like that, but I'm very introvert. I'm not good with like a big event. I'm very shy and I get nervous what I do. But one time I got advice from my senior, like, you get nervous because you are forcing too much to sell yourself. You don't have to sell yourself. You are there to find some interesting things. So with that makes me feel like a more relief. Okay, I don't have to sell it. You know, it's a elevator pitch. You know, you have to introduce yourself, but don't think too much that you have to sell yourself as well. Be as you are, it's fine. And explain who you are is okay. Don't force too much to sell yourself. I think that's the time when people get a little bit nervous. Like you are trying to sell and you are trying to impress more than who you are or something like that. Don't force too much. That's kind of things which I learned. And then other thing that I had some registration question is like this person was have age question, like is like a age play in the factor for Japanese company for the job fair for city candidate. First of all, as everybody know, you know, ages doesn't matter and it's illegal to judge for the ages. So Japanese company as well. In Japan, yes, it's allowed. So when they hire somebody, they specifically request like from this age to this age is for this position, something like that. It's allowed in there, but they are aware in here that they can ask for that, they can judge for that. So you don't have to worry about it as well. And then, but one thing when they think about ages, it's not the ages. They want somebody who is very flexible and who is more adaptable to the new situation and who is energized, not who is willing to just sit down on the chair like, oh, I'm old. I don't want to do anything new or something like that. If you show you that you are energetic and you are flexible to adapt it, then those portion is going to be absolute as well. That is my understanding. And other question is, are there any remote job or internship opportunity? First of all, not only Japanese company, but US company as well. Remote job is almost gone. We have only a few company who is very specific position. They are allowing for remote job, but it is very rare. And as for internship, Japanese companies are interested in the internship, but still they are figuring out how to make it happen. So they are trying to, but not many chances yet. So this is one topic which I want to talk about job fair, and I wanted to answer some questions from the registrars. Thank you.
All right, and I'll be taking over here. And again, Carlos from Quick USA, thank you for taking the time to come out here today, everyone. So now I want to talk a little bit about how to prepare for any upcoming job fair that you might be having, or, just give you some tips on what things you should maybe consider when preparing for a job fair, right? And, I'll say, first and foremost, preparation is definitely key, right? Preparation for these things is key. So researching the companies that will attend the event is a very big thing that you need to do. And I see that in the chat already somebody is asking for a list of the participating companies for the job fair in Michigan. That's a great thing to do, right? So researching companies, it's honestly fairly easy to come across the information. Doing the research is a little bit on the difficult part, but coming across the information is fairly simple. Normally, you can find this information in the official job fair list, normally where the participating companies are listed, normally their home website or their web page or any other socials might actually come together. Might be posted as well. So their LinkedIn, their home website, or any other socials, you can use those and do the research on the companies that will be participating. More than all the companies, maybe you should focus on the companies that you're interested in interacting with, right? Because it might be a very big venue. You might not have enough time to interact with each and every single company, right? And the importance of doing this research is that, it'll allow you to better prepare yourself to maybe cater your elevator pitch, which I will get into in a little bit, and make you stand out a little bit more and maybe leave a very good first impression on these companies, right? Because first good impressions can be a very big thing, right? That could lead up to a follow-up or meet up with the company in another different situation. Another interesting thing that you should be doing is researching the roles that these companies are, looking for, right? And one thing that I'm going to throw out, guys, is that if the roles that a certain company is looking for, maybe they're only specifically looking for specialists, maybe something that you're not particularly qualified for, but you're still interested in the company itself, I would recommend to not be discouraged and continue researching the company, try to interact with those companies as well, as there might be other opportunities that might fit your criteria. Maybe you want to do some administrative related jobs, maybe you want to do some accounting, So even if the roles that the companies are looking for are not the ones that you're particularly interested in, but you're interested in the company, I would recommend doing your research and interacting with the company, right? Now, moving on to the next point is the elevator pitch, right? And you might ask yourself, what is an elevator pitch, right? Well, elevator pitch is just a fancy word for a self-introduction, All right, it's just your self-introduction on, who you are, what you want to do. And Takeshi-san actually covered a little bit in the previous slide, right? But the importance of an elevator pitch, right, is first of all, it has to be simple. Lengthwise, I would recommend maybe having your elevator pitch or self-introduction be anywhere between 60 and 90 seconds, right? No more than that, because it just tends to be too long after that. And in a lot of cases, students who are just straight out of college, when they're asked the question, "Hey, please tell me about yourself," or do a little self-introduction, they tend to, as Takeshi-san mentioned, sometimes they tend to try to overdo it a lot. They might talk a little bit too much, and they really don't get that point across, what they want to say, right? So this is why it's important to prepare your self-introduction, to prepare your elevator pitch beforehand, but not only prepare it, but also practice it, as many times as possible to get it right. Some of the information that you might want to add into your elevator pitch, of course, would include your name, because, of course, the companies want to know who you are, right? What your current situation is, if you're a senior in college, if you're a master's student, if you're a junior, uh, where is it that you currently stand in, right? And then, of course, what you're interested in. If, let's say, for example, you're majoring in electrical engineering and you're graduating this upcoming May, you could let them know, "Hey, I'm majoring in this particular thing. I'm looking for electrical engineering opportunities. I'm graduating this May, and I'm looking for opportunities in the area where your company is. Do you have certain opportunities there?" Right? Stuff like that. And finally, you could also add something extra, right? A little fact about yourself. If you're targeting Japanese companies, for example, you can let them know, "Hey, I have study abroad experience. I have Japanese proficiency. Maybe I have N3 level aiming towards the N2. Maybe I was part of the JET program. I have knowledge about, Japanese companies, about Japanese culture that could help the company in a way or two, right?" So that's some of the information that we recommend you add to your elevator pitch. Resumes, definitely an important factor here. We recommend, if you don't have one, of course, create one. If you have an older version, make sure to update that version and bring as many physical copies as you can to these job fairs, because you will be handing those out, right? And I always say it's better to over prepare rather than to under prepare for the situation. As for the length of a resume, for a student who's fresh out of college, we do recommend a 1 page long resume might be just the right amount to write all the necessary information. So your educational background, your part-time experience, your volunteer jobs, your projects, and all that stuff that you did throughout college. But if you want to, maybe talk a little bit more about yourself, 2 pages might be the max that we recommend. Otherwise, it just gets too long after that. And then optionally, you can bring, depending on what roles that you're aiming for, what companies you're looking to interact with, we recommend, if you have the time to prepare, bring in a folder, binder, or tablet with your sample items like graphics, maybe translations, essays, right? So some projects that might be related to the role that you're interested in, or the company that you're interested in as well. And this also plays a role for business. This also applies for business cards. It is an optional thing, but it does make you look quite professional if you do have one. If you're willing to, spend the time and effort and money, you could design your own business card, have them printed out at FedEx, and just go ahead and hand those business cards out during the job fair in order to, network and connect with other people. And before we jump into the next page, I just want to do a really quick introduction on a very interesting LinkedIn group that we have. If you are interested in kind of learning more about employment opportunities in Japanese companies in the United States, in collaboration with Kasia and Jetta, we have a segment called the Shushoku Cafe, LinkedIn group called the Shushoku Cafe, which I actually came up with the name. And what we do is, in the LinkedIn group, we focus on continuously posting employment opportunities for Japanese companies all around the United States for a variety of different industries, for a variety of different levels. Some of these employment opportunities require Japanese proficiency, while others don't. right? So it's a very good resource for constantly looking or exploring on what opportunities are out there in the United States in Japanese companies. But yeah, and it's definitely free of charge. The QR code is right there. We can talk more about this after the presentation. My apologies.
Great. Now, my turn to talk about Japanese language and culture skills and how important they are in the job fair. So, pardon me if I get a little passionate on this topic. It is one of my favorite topics, but there's quite a few things that are wrapped up in this area. First of all, let's talk about what fluency means because it may come up as you're speaking with some people. Fluency really is a very difficult word to use when you're talking about the Japanese language. Anybody who studies any part of Nihongo knows how difficult it is. You have to know hiragana, katakana, kanji, and then if you are using business Japanese, keigo, sonkeigo, kenjogo, which is the honorifics at work in a business setting, all of those are incredible nuances. Not to mention that a lot of times, and I see this when I speak with a lot of professionals, some people may be a little bit more well-versed in the reading and writing of Japanese, whereas others don't really do writing. They can't really write the kanji, but speaking and listening is their jam. They're so good at speaking. Their accent is impeccable, but they may not be able to write a kanji or write an actual complete sentence or care about the grammar. It just comes naturally to them when they speak. There are some gifted people who do speak both, and they speak, listen, read, and write at the same time. But it takes a lot of practice to get there. A lot of times people find it's easier to learn the language while living in Japan, which is why the JET program is so important to this conversation too. Just being around other people, whether you're just going to the store or buying a ticket at the train station, like all those little things help you with your quote unquote fluency. So when I meet anybody who asks if I'm fluent or if they want a fluent candidate or even bilingual candidate, I always like to categorize it a little bit better. So keep this in mind as you are trying to understand what your level is and how you explain what your level is. I use 3 simple categories of basic, so basic Japanese, intermediate, and advanced or native. And when you are speaking about your language skills or writing in a cover letter, I think it's important to clarify that you might be intermediate in speaking and listening and maybe basic in reading and writing. So we're together going to share the message with employers and other recruiting companies maybe who are not as well versed in the US-Japan space that Japanese is not really easy to describe. So when it comes to a job fair, I often speak with the employer side. And I hear all sorts of different conversations. I hear some employers who want fluent, bilingual, like perfectly speaking back and forth, perfectly writing back and forth. And that will be a little bit difficult to meet those very high standards. So I often do share with them and say, well, I hope you are open to other skills besides the Japanese language component. And what I say now, I want you to use this to empower yourselves too. You can say that, yeah, I may not know your terminology for this company because obviously every company has their own, unique terms, and sometimes it's just so specific, or even industry logo is difficult to grasp unless you are working in the industry. So it's a chicken egg scenario. But if you are open to learning, and if you are open to doing it upon being hired by a company and you can gambaru a little bit and study, and you actually like to do it, which I find a lot of job seekers actually like that part. They would love to be paid to study Japanese. Of course, that's just a small component of the job responsibilities, but you can use that to say, even though I am at this level of Japanese and you are searching for somebody who might be perfectly bilingual, I have the potential to get to a higher point. If you give me the opportunity, I will study, I will try to understand your writing material, your language, the usage of your language in the workplace. Just promote yourself that you can study it, that it's not impossible. So yes, you'll have some employers requesting that. There are also some employers who join because they want you to know the culture of Japanese business. They want to know that you are comfortable in, perhaps not being the typical gaijin where you're talking super loudly and not listening, but they know that you have a certain level of respect in a meeting room, for example, or maybe you know how to meet people with a business card, or maybe you understand that if this is a little bit, extra credit, but let's say you were a jet in Japan and you saw how teachers worked together in the kyoshitsu, or in the room with all the other teachers, you could say that you know how meetings are run, how, decisions are made. That kind of information, even if you don't know the language or aren't comfortable sharing it, could be very valuable to a company that is either located in your state and happens to have their headquarters in Japan, or maybe they know nothing about Japan, but they are looking for somebody who can maybe help with, connecting with Japanese companies as like a sales perspective. So there's really lots of different things. So as Carlos was talking about doing your research, check out their connection to Japan. Do they have an HQ in Japan? Is their headquarters in Japan? Do they have local subsidiaries in the US, Mexico, Europe, anywhere? Just check out what their global footprint is. And maybe they have zero connection to Japan, but they want the connection. So you can go there with your comfortable level of Japanese wherever you are at, and you can help them out in many ways. So this actually, we received a question from a registrant was, how comfortable should I be with the Japanese language before attending? And my answer to that is, be comfortable with wherever you are at this point. Don't pretend to be anything more. Don't be too humble. I know that we like to be humble when we speak about Japanese. Mada mada desu, mada benkyou chū desu. We try to downplay our Japanese, but that's the cultural aspect that sneaks in there, especially if you've studied Japanese for a long time or have lived in Japan. When you're in the US and you're speaking to a local US hiring manager, you have to kind of leave that humbleness to the side and speak to them in a typical American way, which this is such a neat fact when it comes to speaking with people who actually have the Japanese language component. So be frank and honest with your Japanese language level, show that you are willing to learn, and see where that takes you. Now, there's also the question about the JLPT, the Japanese Language Proficiency Test. I also have lots of opinions on this topic. Maybe later I'll put it in the chat. I have a bunch of blog posts on this topic. Basically, this is a test that is not perfect. And a lot of employers don't understand exactly how it works. So whether you have or have not taken the JLPT, I want you to understand what the test is and be able to help share with employers what it is about. Now, it doesn't really test your speaking skills, and there's the N1, N2, N3, and 4, and yes, you can only take it once a year in the US, which is kind of unfair, especially if the testing center is not local to you and you have to travel. A lot of times students cannot afford to travel, stay in a hotel, and do all that. So you can take the practice tests and say, I'm approximately at the N3, N4 level. That could be something you could share as well, because employers just need to know where you're at. And they don't know. If they don't know the Japanese language, they have no idea where to start. So they think that the JLPT is the only thing to go by and you have to have N1 to be perfectly fluent and do their job. Well, that's not always the case. I know lots of people who are professional interpreters and translators who may not have the JLPT N1, but they're doing their job just fine without that test. Now, they were lucky. They worked their way up through the system, they proved themselves, etc. But unfortunately, I also know people who are N1s and N2s and cannot communicate in a business setting. Because the JLPT tests you on verbiage, on grammar patterns that are so difficult, but sometimes unnecessary in the business world. So yes, I still want you to take the test. I think it's a great way to force yourself to learn, especially because it's so difficult and you really have to focus. There's other tests you can take if you really want to study. I like the BJT, Business Japanese Test. It used to be run by Jetro. Now it's at there's different centers. I believe there's 4 in the US. They're not specific to any date, and you can travel there anytime. Yes, you still have to travel. So I will add that information in the chat afterwards when I finish sharing my screen. That BJT is a shorter test, different way of grading, but honestly, just studying for it is going to help you with business Japanese. So you can communicate with people in Japanese with just the most important phrases that you need to know. So yes, JLPT should be in your goal somewhere just because that's what everybody uses. Now, if you're looking for a job in Japan, that's difficult. They're going to be requesting those tests. A lot of times, N1, N2 is kind of what you need to get any kind of job. Others, of course, exist, but that's what I've been hearing from my friends in Japan. US, JLPT is still not as well known, but it's still out there. Now, I also don't want you to forget to promote your Japanese cultural skills. Just like I mentioned earlier about some of the companies that join because they have no knowledge about Japan whatsoever, your cultural skills can be just as important as the language skills. Now, not every employer knows that, so I want you to help promote yourself that way too. Because even if you went on a study abroad for 4 months during college, that is no joke. Okay, you are shopping in Japanese, you're taking your garbage out, depending on if you live in a dorm or a host family. You learn by the rules and you are using Japanese in an everyday manner. And that is still very, very good to know how the culture works. So, for example, the company I used to work at in Michigan, they had people who may not have been speaking perfect Japanese, but they understood what it was like to live in Japan, and they were helping expats from Japan get used to living in Michigan. So maybe they could speak conversationally, and it was fun on a one-on-one way to speak with an expat and help them with like their car oil change or something, or maybe drive them together to get their driver's license, or go to the grocery store and help explain a few things. That they can do because it's a little bit less like, business meeting style. But really, they were able to help these expats from Japan so much better than someone who has zero knowledge about Japan because they know what it's like to live overseas and to have that, culture shock experience, no friends, nobody understands me. That is also extremely beneficial to certain roles in companies. So I urge you to still be very content with your cultural skills and not be afraid to promote it. You look at the job description, see if they would apply and promote that as well there too. So my tip is to be confident in your current level of Japanese and to, offer that you can learn more. And that would be kind of exciting for a lot of people if they had that opportunity. So we did have some questions come in about the language component. So there's actually 3 of them. To summarize, I am interested in teaching Japanese. What qualifications do I need? So when talking about a job fair, I haven't really seen too many positions that are teaching Japanese at a job fair, but doesn't mean that they're not going to happen. And also, separately on the side, you can reach out to, it has to do with your education system in your state. So I would encourage you to read what it is in your state or in your district. There's an organization I will mention called AATJ, American Association for Teachers of Japanese, I believe is the abbreviation. AATJ.com, I believe. They will have a link to all the different Japanese teachers associations in the various states. So find the one that covers your state, reach out to them, and just start connecting with other teachers in that area and ask questions. What do I need to do to become this teacher? There might be a program, and I know there's a great Japanese teacher online here. If you wanted to add something in the comments, name will not be mentioned, but there's great opportunities to learn at a different higher education course where you can get a certain degree or a certification. And so it really depends on the location. So look into it, but start with AATJ, go to your state, start networking with teachers. Another question is, I am potentially interested in interpreting, but have no professional training. Are there employers that would be willing to train me? Now, when it comes to a job fair, yes, I have seen companies come looking for people to specifically fill the interpreter/translator roles. And at that point, they're already looking for somebody who is very well versed, probably has some kind of, formal education, took a course, whether it was in Japan through companies like Simul. The other names kind of left my brain right now, but there's a bunch of interpreting schools in Japan. In the US, there was the Monterey Institute for International Studies that became Middlebury, and I believe now, unfortunately, they had to shut down their program. But there's a lot of programs that do offer interpreting or translating certificates and training that you can get to know what it's like to do simultaneous, consecutive, whispering, conference. All of that is very different and very exciting to learn about. Now, another route is if you want to one day become an interpreter, it's important to know the terminology and the content that you are interpreting. So, for example, you could start off at a company, kind of what Carlos was talking about. Like if you find a company that you'd like to work at, start off maybe in an administrative role, which tends to be easier for entry level. And then once you have your foot in the door, you're looking at other opportunities. You start hearing the terminology that's in that particular company. Maybe you look at some documents, you try translations, maybe you offer to help with interpreting meetings, kind of unofficially, so you're not being hired as an interpreter, but you get comfortable with the content, that you can talk about the content comfortably in both English and Japanese. And eventually that next step could be to become that company's interpreter or that company's translator. And I should clarify, interpreting is verbal interpreting. Translating is documents, written documents that you translate. So that is another path that you can choose to do. It takes much longer, but it gives you the experience and the knowledge, and you really learn what it's like to be a part of that organization, to know their terminology, and eventually become their expert in-house interpreter. To become an actual interpreter for like an agency where you get sent to various companies, that probably requires some kind of certificate. You have to be well versed in different fields. So that is something that you can look into as well. And also one more question about the language component was about joining a Japanese school to learn more. So not really specific to job fair, but I will just mention that there's so many opportunities to learn Japanese. Find what you think matches your personality, and that will help you continue to study Japanese longer. If you want to focus on reading and writing, there's so many blogs and programs out there online, even like YouTube channels, things to help you with whatever you are focused on. There's also podcasts and YouTube channels that are more like for entertainment purposes that you can listen to, and sometimes they'll have the jibaku or the subtitles that you can read. Dramas, TV dramas, that's how I learned Japanese. Karaoke is how I also learned Japanese. You listen to a song that maybe you hear all the time, you see what is written, and you try to keep up and read that. So you're training, you're reading, listening, and everything. All your comprehension is being tested while having a good time. So find something that you enjoy. There's always, of course, language programs. A lot of universities offer programs to people who are not necessarily their students. Community colleges offer great programs. So there's a lot out there. You just have to do a little bit of searching, maybe reach out to your local Japan community. For example, here in Michigan, we have, the Japan Business Society, we have Japan America Society. And if you go to some of these events, then you learn that we have a newspaper, we have schools, we have a Saturday school for children. We've got all sorts of things that you can get involved in and then make friends, speak with Japanese people, maybe a tutor relationship can start. So there's lots of opportunities. So that's it for that. Later on, once I finish sharing, I will drop the chat about the JLPT, the BJT, and being fluent in the chat. So next, we'll have Takeshi-san, onegai shimasu.
All right, I'm going to talk about expectation. Before going for my content, there's in the question, it's asking like, bring ridekisho and shokumu keirekisho in Japanese. So I think Lily answers. So on this event, the English one is enough, but if you can make it, it's going to be standing out. So it's more than welcome. And if you prepare for that, if I was interviewer, I'm going to suppose, wow, you made this effort for this job fair and you can make this one. So it's not a mandatory, but if you can make it, that would be great. And for this topic, what I'm talking about is what is the employer is thinking about this job fair. First of all, you may realize when you arrive in there, all of the company, they are so friendly. They're gonna make you feel like, oh, we are in the college and they are teachers or they are the friends. There are so many young professionals in there and a very good vibe in there. And then you're gonna be start feeling like, okay, it's fun. But make sure they are expecting you as a business professional. So of course they're gonna be so friendly, but keep in mind, first of all, for the attire, at least come with business casual, don't wear the t-shirts or nothing with like some marks on it. At least dress professional, like a casual, business casual, because they are expecting you, not a friend. They are expecting you as a young professional who will be working in their company. So it doesn't have to be the suits or it doesn't have to be the tie. If you have a tie, if you can come with a tie, of course, it's going to be a big plus to show up, showing that, you know how to dress as a business professional. So that's first things. And also at the beginning of the topic, which I told you, that it is very easy for the interviewer that you are prepared or not prepared. So I think the company who is participant in this event is already listed out in that website. So at least search their website. What kind of their product are they making? Where are they locating? And then find out, what kind of things interesting in there. Then after that, start asking the question in the event. Then that's going to be very noticeable. And for the interviewer, which is very nice, like, oh, this candidate actually studied and investigated about the company and then asking the questions. So you don't have to write like, oh, I love this product or I know this product, something like that. If you don't know, that's fine. Then if I were you, what I say, investigating, and then the company was making like some automotive parts in there, if you are not quite sure about it, then if I were you, I would ask you, I was researching about your company and you're located in Dubai and you are manufacturing automotive parts like a blah, 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 like a spring, some spring, something like that. And it was very unique and I want to understand more about it. Can you tell me, is this your product is like how different from your competitor, or what you expecting your business for growth, something like that? So you don't have to pretend that you know everything about this company. It's okay that you don't know it. And it's okay that you can ask questions, but not asking, hey, what are you doing in your company? It shows you like you don't have any interest. You didn't research nothing. After researching it, I'm not quite understanding well. So can you help me to understand what is your product stand out? What's the strong point of your product? What kind of person you're looking for, something like that. In that way, you can show them, how you are prepared and how you know about the brand as well. And also, I think Kasia-san was explaining about Japanese language skill, how you introduce yourself as well. But Japanese skill is not only skill you can show in there as well. There is another skill, Maybe if you're major like engineering or if you're major business, maybe much easier to show the hard skills. But also for those young professionals who you are around in university, one of the strong point for you is, I think it's one of them is soft skill, your communication skills. You are willing to run, you are willing to work together with somebody else. So how you interact with the interviewer, or when you're on the line, or when you're in the area, how you interact with the others, then that's the way you can show your soft skill as well. So don't stress too much about only focusing on Japanese skill and not only for hard skill as well. You have a soft skill, communication, and then you investigate and ask a question to understand it and then work together with somebody else, something like that. It's a big plus, especially when they are hiring for the entry level. They want somebody who is potentially is willing to run and grow. And then It's okay to be nervous, And then I've been there for this fair, and then when I was there on the booth, I'm the one who is nervous too. I was very nervous, saying, "Hey, how are you? Come on, join." Who is there is also nervous, so don't worry. It's okay to be nervous. Everybody is human, so it's okay. Take a deep breath. When you're nervous, take a deep breath. It's okay. And you can say, "I'm sorry, I'm a little bit nervous." And it's okay. You can say that. And then the counterpart and the interviewer is also nervous as well. So don't worry about it. And then the same advice I gave you. Don't force too much about selling yourself. You don't have to sell yourself. Just be yourself, but be prepared about what you answer, how you explain yourself. So that might be the things what employer is expecting about you. Is first of all, they are not looking for you. They are not seeing you as a friend. Be their professional, business casual attire, and then investigate and how you ask the question. They want somebody who at least to investigate, at least to be prepared. And then you don't have to show only Japanese skill, other than that, your soft skill. So that might be the expectation, and they know that you'll be nervous. So don't worry about it. And I have some question about for the restaurant. Question is like, how can I make my application more Japanese focused way, more appealing in there? One thing I can tell is when I have for the candidate, for the resume screening, when I give the advice is majoring Japanese is not only way you can show it in there as well. If you study by yourself, like since high school, you studied by yourself and you've been studying Japanese more than 5 years, something like that. That's also, you can mention somewhere in the resume as well. Or studying abroad, like one semester, of course. But maybe sometime visited in Japan as a trip for 2 weeks trip or something like that. That's also, it's like showing your interest, why you want to be connected. Because sometimes, a lot of Japanese company in Michigan, they are trying to localize, which means they are trying to hire local employees more and more. But when they are on the step of the localizing, they need somebody who is don't have to speak in Japanese, but they want somebody who understands to Japan, who understands Japanese culture, who wants to be the Brits in there, show the interest in there. So, like showing your interest, why you being interested in Japan, why you want to be connected to Japan. That kind of information is shown in resume. Is going to stand out. Doesn't have to be fluent in Japanese, but that's also going to be okay. This candidate looks good. It's going to culturally fit in the company. That's one thing you can show it in the resume for Japanese company. And what makes a lasting impression towards an employer during the interview process? So I think there might be some different answers about it. But me, when I'm helping for an interview, and then when I am interviewing for our employees, what I stand up more is always at the last of the interview or at the last of the job fair, they might ask you, do you have any questions? And how you answer those questions, it's always remind me who they are. Because there's nothing wrong, asking like a very simple question, or you can say like, oh, I don't have it. It's okay. But for those one who remind in my mind, or who has good impression it's kind of similar things which I explained before. Like after investigating in the company, like the candidate who can imagine, oh, if I were working in this company, maybe I'm gonna do this way. Like who can imagine yourself working in that company? So some question like if this position or if the person working in your company is this approach is going to be the one what you're looking for? Or if this person working in this company, is this skill set is what you're looking for? Like whoever fucking imagine working in the company, the question coming from there, which makes, oh, this person is taken seriously about thinking about like not only for the interest, but also can imagine yourself working in there. That kind of question, as always, make me impress a lot. And I had from some of my clients say, like, okay, this person knows that what we are doing, and they can, even like it's a little bit off about what exactly we're doing, but they expect, oh, this person can imagine what we are doing. So that kind of things can stand up, make a good impression for that. And then I think there was some question in there. I couldn't follow all the questions, but one thing I said, like how the process for the interview is almost same, like a Japanese company and US company in here. Maybe one or two interview, and then the last one is going to be meeting with the president or something like that. So it's quite similar, but I think US company move a little bit more quicker, like now, quick. Once they send the offer, they're gonna expect you to return your offer in 1 or 2 days, something like that. Japanese company might take a little bit longer. They take a little bit longer step to go one by one. They want to make sure that there's no mismatch about the culture of it as well. So that maybe could be one thing. It can be a little bit different about the processes. So that's kind of thing from me. And I'm going to pass it to Carlos.
Thank you, Takeshi-san. All right. Just kind of finish it up today, guys. Just a little, a few tips that we want to give you guys, for maybe when you're nervous or something like that. Of course, icebreaker statements. Icebreakers are a good way to kind of break that awkwardness, that tension when you're talking or interacting with your target companies, right? And you might think, hey, when I have to use an icebreaker, when you think of an icebreaker, you might think, hey, maybe I need to make a joke, or maybe I need to say something funny to kind of, you know, get things going here. But, that's not necessarily true, right? Sometimes like simple and direct statements can also be as impactful, can definitely, break the ice, right? And that's kind of what you want to do when you are interacting with your target companies, right? If that happens, right? If you find yourself in an awkward situation, being able to establish communication. Simple statements such as, the ones you see on screen here, hey, I follow your company on the social media and I really like your posts, right? That could be enough information or enough of a statement to be like, oh, so what's going on? You know about our company, you're interested in our company, and then you can, start the conversation there. Hey, I'm interested in working for you guys. I've researched, I like your post, but not only that, I've also research what kind of product you guys sell and all that stuff, right? I read your company's website and I think it's interesting, right? You might read a little bit about the company, maybe about their vision, the way they do things, or the things that they have produced or developed over the years. And you can let them know, hey, I'm really interested. I think your company is really interested. I would love to work for your company. I already did some research on it, and I would like to, be part of your team. Stuff like that. Icebreaker moments, simple messages are, good enough to get your point across, right? Let's say, for example, another thing that might work would be, I don't know, if you're targeting Japanese companies, for example, you might say, hey, I'm majoring in engineering or in accounting, but I speak Japanese to a certain level, and I would like to use my Japanese when I work in order to improve it. Do you offer those opportunities in your company, right? So icebreaker statements are definitely an important aspect when trying to communicate with these companies. Now, a little bit of some do's and don'ts. There's a long list of things that maybe you should, maybe you shouldn't do. You definitely should. You definitely shouldn't do when you go to your job fairs, right? And then some of the points that I will be covering have already been mentioned a little bit, maybe. The first one being dress professionally, right? As Takeshi-san said, You don't have to like super overdress. If you can bring the tie, that'll be a plus, definitely. But casual business is the way to go for these job fairs, right? I have a personal experience. No, I have an experience with one of our candidates in the past that he actually went to an interview. So it's maybe not the job fair scenario, but he went to an interview for a company, and I remember that we got really good feedback, right? We got really, really good feedback for this for from the company regarding this candidate, maybe to the point that they might want to offer him a position. But unfortunately, the candidate actually ended up wearing a baseball hat to the interview, and that kind of the company let us know, we really like the candidate, but unfortunately, he didn't dress professionally for the occasion, so we're gonna have to pass on him, right? So the attire is definitely an important factor when attending job fairs, interviews, etc. Right? Uh, Next up, bring a small notepad, guys. And a pen in case you need to write stuff down, right? When you're interacting with your target companies, they might provide you with some information, maybe some information on how to follow up, or maybe some role or position related information that's important to you, and you might want to take those notes or write those notes down. Maybe they don't have their business cards. They might just give you some of their information, and you might want to write down that information as well in order to contact them or in order to follow up with those people. Uh, Other things that you can do is definitely, and Taisan also kind of covered this point here, is don't ask basic questions, right? Because like you said, it shows that you didn't do your research on the companies. On the opposite, maybe try asking some insightful questions, right? Questions maybe like, oh, what kind of candidate are you looking for? What kind of things makes the candidate stand out for this company, right? Stuff like that. Other important points here for job fairs is to arrive early. Arrive early, especially if there's going to be some kind of presentation or speech before the actual job fair happens or starts. Specifically, if there's a company that you're looking to target, you might want to get there early rather than on time. A lot of, people usually say, being on time is being late. I hear that a lot. And although I don't think that applies to every single scenario, I do think it applies to this particular one, right? Especially if you're looking to get the best out of this job fair, right? And then last but not least, I guess another important thing is really depending on the venue, is plan your route. You have to plan because maybe there might be 100 companies, and then out of those 100 companies, you're interested in a certain number, but they might be separated or like spread out throughout the entire venue. So it's important to look at the map if there is one of where these companies' booths are going to be located, and you can kind of plan accordingly on, hey, where I'm going to go visit these companies first, and then I'm going to visit these other companies on the other side here. But yeah, so and like this, there's 1,000 more do's and don'ts that you need to consider when participating or when looking to participate in a job fair. But I think that's where I'm going to finish it up here. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, minasan. So now let me give you a little bit of an explanation about what we will do next. The reason I think this is a good idea for us to have a breakout room to practice our elevator speeches is because this is where I see everyone they panic. In the moment, people panic. And I think practice is the way to go. So whether you are a seasoned professional or this will really be your first one, these breakout rooms, we hope to be for everybody. Now we're going to have 5 different rooms. So it'll be a small group. Again, it will not be recorded, so it's a safe space. And once you get into the breakout room, I want you to take about a minute, just jot down on a piece of paper, kind of run through the main points that you'd like to mention. As Carlos mentioned in his slide, it's your name, it's a little bit about yourself, and it's what you're looking for. If you want to add a little fun fact in there that you think will be memorable to the employer, that's also something to do. Today, we're going to focus on about under 30 seconds, just to give everybody a moment. you're not going to receive feedback from the person who's one of us speakers who's going to be in the room. It's just a way for you to practice. Now, if you are a seasoned professional, and if you care to stay with us and you've had a million of these elevator pitches that you've done, please stay and share your elevator pitch so that others can learn from you. I think learning from each other and hearing each other's introductions is really helpful. And also, if you want to, this is just totally extra credit, if you want to do it in Japanese, that is also something possible, especially if the company that you connect with at your job fair happens to have somebody who understands Japanese. That'll be a great first impression to make. And don't worry about being perfect in your Japanese. Again, practice makes perfect. So we're going to now break out into 5 rooms. It's going to be with me, Carlos, Alicia, Takeshi-san, and Lily, also from the Great Lakes Jet Alumni Association. Once we are done, so again, 1 minute of prep, about 30 seconds each, and then when you're done, come back to the main room. And while we wait for all 5 groups to come back together, feel free to use the chat to network if you want to drop your LinkedIn URL or any other social media platform. Wait for us. We'll all come back together, and then we'll have a little bit of Q&A. All right? So I'm going to stop sharing. And I think, Lily, if you have a chance to break us up into rooms, that would be great. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. We really hope that it was helpful. I know we could talk way longer on these topics. Thank you for your great questions. And I know this is going to sound cheesy, but really nothing is impossible. So if you want to get something, there's ways to get there. Talk to people, network, ask questions, do your research, come to events like this, and hopefully you will also get to a point where you feel satisfied in the current place, the job or the company you're working at. So hope to see you if you're in Michigan, at our next job fair, and have a good night. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Kasia. Thank you,
Yes.
Takeshi. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Japan America Society Young Professionals, and my fellow Great Lakes Jet officers who helped us make this event possible. So we will eventually be getting the recording up after I edit it a little bit. So we will send that link out once we get it together. Thank you very much. Good night.